Alright, hello again. Welcome back. It's Vince again from Hudson Bonsai. And today I just really want to talk about developing bonsai. What trees you should be looking for, what you can be starting with as a beginner, or what's good nursery stock to work with. To begin, I've got some deciduous trees here. Now, deciduous trees, there really is no fast way to take a deciduous tree and make a really beautiful bonsai. Sometimes you can get lucky, like this is a burning bush, and it's not fantastic now, but I think that I really kind of lucked out with a very good kind of structure and shape to this tree when I bought it from the nursery. I've only had this for, I purchased it around this time last year and repotted it in the spring. I pruned it a bit last year, pruned it a little bit more this year, added some pieces of wire, but this tree still has a lot of work before it's really going to be a beautiful bonsai tree. Other things I have here is this is a paper bark maple, and this started out as a seedling. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. This spring I cut the trunk back for the first time. This was about this tall last year, and all of this growth that you see is from this year. I'm just starting to build some taper in this tree. It'll be trunk chopped probably 2 to 3 more times, and this really won't be a finished tree for at least probably 10 years. And again, it really doesn't look like much at the moment, but that's the work that needs to be put into a piece of deciduous material. This is an American elm. Same deal. I actually grew this in the ground to thicken it up, which is something that I generally don't do. I like to grow things in pots. I think that the end result is better than a field-grown tree. But this was grown outside in the ground, and this year it was collected from there, chopped back. It was just a random cut here. It'll probably be cut again, maybe half the height that it is now, but I wanted to let some branches establish before I chose where I was going to cut it. But again, this is a deciduous tree. It's a long-term process. There's no real fast way or shortcuts to developing a deciduous tree. This is an azalea. This was a nursery stock tree, like the burning bush. And the first year that I got it, I cut it back pretty hard. The next year it was repotted, and this year was the first year that I saw flowers on this tree. But it's it's really starting to establish itself, and it'll be due next year for another pruning, but it'll be a few years before this is really a developed tree. And there's no way around that other than buying a tree that someone else has already put in that time and those years to train it into a bonsai. Alright, next up here I have some pines. And pines are another group of trees that there really is no way to go to a nursery and buy a pine tree or collect a pine tree seedling and immediately have something that really looks like a bonsai. This is a dwarf mugo pine, and I've been developing this tree for something like 3 years. It started out as just a round mop of a tree. I got it into a bonsai container, and this year it really got its first styling, its first serious pruning. All this wire was applied at that time. And now you have something that looks somewhat like a tree. It also has, quite a long ways to go in its development. But like I say, you don't have any way to just immediately make a pine bonsai. This is an eastern white pine. This was collected as a small seedling, and again, it's been worked on. I think this was repotted this year. It's fairly cute. It's not a big, large, beautiful bonsai, but it's, again, pretty decent to look at. This is a loblolly pine that I originally acquired as a small seedling, and this might be typical of a smaller piece of nursery stock you could find. They may have pruned this a bit more, and you might have a little bit fuller of a tree, but I'm just interested in getting it as big as I can, as quick as I can, so that I can start building it into a bonsai. The last tree I have in here is a Japanese white pine. Again, it's just a typical little piece of nursery stock, and there's not really, like I say, you can't just take this and turn it into a bonsai. It takes years, many years, to develop a pine into a real credible, good-looking pine bonsai. So, what other possibilities are there? Next, I'm going to bring in some junipers. So next, junipers. These are both Juniper procumbens, Juniper chinensis procumbens. So this one was just a piece of nursery stock. The only thing that's been done with this is it's been repotted into a bonsai container, bonsai soil. It's never been wired, pruned, or styled in any sort of way. And maybe there's a bonsai tree under there. Could end up with something like this, which is not very nice, but not terrible, but that's just what this tree had to offer me. This will still take some time to be developed into something nice, but I think it can be done. That's just, you can tell to a point that there's something good underneath the juniper, but there's not always a fantastic set of branches that are going to give you a beautiful tree. Now this is another pair of procumbens junipers. These two are both significantly larger than the others. This tree, I did get very lucky the first time that I styled this tree, which was back in 2019. That once I cleaned it out and got into it and adjusted the angle, there was quite a nice structure under there, and I was able to make a bonsai that looked like a bonsai. Even the first time this was styled, it looked pretty good. So this was another tree that was purchased at the same time. These were just flat out mounds, which is typical of this type of juniper. That's the way it grows. And this one at the same time, I got it into a training container, a little bit better soil, and I put a few pieces of wire on it and brought this branch up to make something of a trunk and an apex, but this tree didn't have quite as nice of a structure on the inside. It didn't have branches quite where I wanted them, and it really wasn't going to be a beautiful bonsai right from the nursery the way that this one was. I got really lucky with this tree. So this one, I've allowed it to just grow and develop, and as it gets bigger, I'll revisit it and see if maybe there's something else I can do. Maybe this apex isn't the apex, that gets moved somewhere else or taken off. Maybe some things will develop into something that will be turned into interesting deadwood. But this tree, I wasn't able to just immediately transform it into something that looked like a bonsai. So you're kind of always rolling the dice, in my opinion, with junipers. Not every juniper that you're going to buy is going to be able to be instantly turned into a bonsai. It just depends on what's there that you can't see. You can make an educated guess by examining that plant before you buy it, but you're never really going to know until you really start to get into it. And the smaller it is, the less chance that there's going to be real usable branches in there. Yeah, you can develop it, but just my point is, don't expect that every juniper that you put your hands on, you're going to be able to turn into a beautiful bonsai immediately. Especially as a beginner, that's kind of what we look for is, you know, I get a tree, I want it to look nice. I don't want to wait 10 or 15 years to develop that into a nice tree. I don't want it to be ugly for, you know, the next 5 to 10 years after I purchase it. You know, the way you're going to be with a deciduous tree. There's no quick way to develop a deciduous tree. And the same thing with a pine. You know, most of the next 5 to 10 years, the tree is going to be ugly because that's just the process of developing it. So you want to bonsai quickly, you want to make it yourself out of a piece of nursery stock. A juniper is a pretty good bet. You can, you know, sometimes you'll get a nice one, you can have a beautiful bonsai. Other times you have something that looks something like a bonsai and it can be acceptable and you can work with it and develop it but still have something that, you know, is pleasing to look at, nice to show off. So there's got to be some other possibilities, right? Alright, so next here I have a tree that I strongly would recommend to any beginner or just anybody that's looking to make bonsai from nursery stock. This is a dwarf Alberta spruce. This one in particular has just been taken from the nursery container that it was purchased in and repotted into a bonsai training container with some bonsai soil in it. There may have been a few branches or something pruned off of this, but this is just basically how you can buy these from a nursery. Now this is one tree that, this tree was purchased at the same time from the same nursery as this tree, and with a few hours of work was transformed into this. This is another one from the same group of trees, and I find that spruce in particular are really reliably able to be transformed into a convincing looking bonsai immediately, just because of the way that they grow. They grow in whorls, so there's always reliably going to be a branch where you need it. As long as you go through and select, you know, I need a branch here, there's a branch there. There'll be a branch opposite it, there'll be a branch next to it, there'll be a branch across from it. And, you know, you can very easily eliminate the rest of those branches and keep the branch where you want it. Unlike, you know, what you often find with a juniper or some other type of conifer is that, yeah, there's a branch here, but I need a branch here. So that'll stall you in your process of developing that tree, where the spruce, you can reliably get a branch where you need a branch, where you want a branch. This is another one. This one's been in development a bit longer than the others. This, you know, started out again as just a plain piece of nursery stock, and it moved into something, you know, with a form like this. And over the years, I've just eliminated more and more branches as the branches that I really wanted to keep have developed further, and this tree has always been presentable. It's always looked good. It's always looked like a bonsai, even though it's obviously developed, you know, into a much higher quality tree than one of these others, and it'll continue to go that way. But my point here is just that, you know, if you want to go out and buy a piece of nursery stock and make yourself a tree that you can be proud of, a tree that you can show off, I think that in Alberta spruce or another similar spruce species, you're not really going to find anything else with as small and tight of growth as this, at least not from an ordinary nursery. But if you want something quick, I think the Alberta spruce is kind of the most reliable piece of material that you can get. If you don't want something that looks like a spruce, well, you're kind of out of luck, or I can't help you there. So anyway, my point is, if you want to be able to reliably turn a nursery tree into a presentable bonsai, the dwarf Alberta spruce is a great choice in my opinion. You can take something that looks like this and make it into this, and then this. I don't think you can really beat them, like I say, for a beginner or just anybody who's interested in being able to make their own bonsai quickly out of nursery stock. Like I talked about junipers, it can be done. You know, if you're really selective on the piece of material that you're getting, chances are you can have something that looks somewhat like a bonsai, but I think more often than not it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more patience to develop a juniper into something that's really nice to look at. As I said, pines, you're looking at years of development to get what you want out of that, and even longer with the deciduous tree. I personally, I love deciduous trees, and I'm willing to put in the time and effort to have some beautiful deciduous trees someday. If you watch my videos, you know I particularly work with quite a few azaleas, and you know, like I say, it's okay to be committed to that. But if you just want something quick and nice and satisfying, I think an Alberta spruce is kind of a home run for that. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye.